Hey YouTube, how's it going? Welcome back to another week in RuneScape. It's December 3rd. A lot going on right now, a lot of controversy around this sailing update, and we're going to cover it all here today. They already, because I'm getting to this recording a little late in the day, they already had come back with an update because right now there was a lot of chatter going around. A lot of people were very upset with the changes they had made, but we're going to go through it all today. So let's start here. All right, so sailing XP reviews and further fixes. Update Wednesday, December 3rd. This is at 2025 UTC. We're back with a late in the day update. Understandably, today's update has spawned a lot of chatter. We apologize for the radio silence up until now, but we needed time to come back and forth as a team, or we need to chat back and forth as a team. You gotta forgive me, I just got off of a D&D session. A little tired, it's late in the day, I still got a lot to do. I gotta work out, gotta meal prep, and etc. So like I said, you're gonna deal with the best that I can give out right now. So they needed time to chat back and forth as a team while keeping all of your feedback and valid frustration in mind. Like I said, sorry. So that we can best figure out our next steps while delivering on our goal of fine-tuning sailing's balance. Remember last week they were talking about making change to at least a crystal extractor. Today they did more than just that. While we don't have specifics right now, we have a rough direction of what we'd like to explore, which we'll be sharing with you now and providing more specifics on a blog post tomorrow. We'll be covering that tomorrow as well on stream, right before we play Terraria. Let's not beat around the bush and get straight into where our heads are at. We love AFK gameplay, and we know that you do too. There was never an intent for extreme 20 to 30 minute AFK gameplay patterns to become a part of training sailing, but it's clearly something that's popular with many of you, But it's clearly something that's popular with many of you, so it isn't something we're looking to entirely remove. Goodness. That said, allowing methods with this level of effort to have a good XP output isn't something we believe is a healthy precedent to set. So we're not looking to significantly increase the strength of the two crewmates salvaging player sorting method. Despite that, there's a chance that changes we'd make Wow, I'm struggling. I'm not gonna lie. Despite that, there's a chance that changes we'd like to make elsewhere will marginally improve XP output here, though we're not specifically making changes to improve the output of this method directly. It's clear that the change to sorting XP is a major pain point, and that many of you feel sorting is no longer worth it whatsoever, which has led players who are salvaging somewhat actively taking a bigger hit to their XP an hour than feels fair. We're looking in ways to improve XP output of this more active self-salvage, self-sort approach so that it feels more worthwhile to do and you don't feel as though you need to drop out of your salvage and miss out on gaining resources. Additionally, we're planning to give the Gwyneth Glide some extra XP to compensate for today's crystal extractor nerf, to reduce the feeling that you're putting in just as much effort as before but getting noticeably less out of it. We currently don't have a specific plan for port task tweaks and are keen to see how these develop, but remain open to possibility of giving them a further boost as needed. Tomorrow we'll be releasing a post diving into more detail on all of the above and where we expect to sit in them in terms of rates. Then if those sound like something that you're on board with, we'll get to work on getting sailing back into a happier place. While it's been heated today, we genuinely appreciate your passion, all of the discussion, and all of your feedback that you provided on today's update. We'll check back in with you tomorrow for more specifics. Real quick, please, if you're, don't go, being rude or mean to JMods or Aiza or any of the community leaders. Like it's just not necessary. Don't go take it on streamers. Streamers aren't your Reddit to complain. I mean, they'll sit there and listen to you. They may laugh at you, but let's be real. It's okay to have an opinion. It's okay to be upset about things, but make sure you're not attacking people. Do not go attack aggressively. Just make sure you get your point out there and be respectful, because it's unnecessary if you're out there just making harmful threats, right? I get the mindset of, you pay for this service, you pay the company to make the game live, to make the server stay active. It is your money, but it doesn't mean you get the rights to be mean, doesn't mean you get the rights to be rude. So don't do that, okay? Just want to get that out there. At the same time, all opinions are okay. I understand some of you may be upset with it. I'll have my own opinion at the end of this. A friend earlier today mentioned something about how this really brought the idea that something like the term abuse early, abuse often was put into play here, and that kind of goes with that salvaging that they're talking about that they nerfed, which we'll cover below. It's not really a good gameplay method, we know that, just because people were able to take advantage of it, and for them to take it out means that no one else gets to take a benefit. So we're gonna see what they do. Maybe they bring some good fixes, but it's just really important to point out, like I said earlier, do not go be mean to JMods, do not go be mean to community members, do not go be mean or rude to streamers, because they don't really have that much control, right? The streamers specifically. They may have a sway and a talk and an opinion, but it's not like they can directly make these changes. And also just being rude or being aggressive gets you nowhere, gets this nowhere. So just want to get that out there, because, you know, I always feel like I got to make that known. I was a part of a community that had gone to the extent of death threats to community members, and I hated that. I think that was stupid, that people would stoop so low. All right. So let's get into what caused the majority of the outbursts today, right? What caused all the problems. You read the news post title, right? This is sailing XP changes. You've seen the panic memes about the crystal extractor being thrown overboard, and you undoubtedly got your thoughts of your own regarding sailing XP balance. We've been reading all over, watching your journeys, and watching over our data analysts to get a real sense of how players are progressing through skilling, where the common pain points are, and areas that might actually harm our ability to expand the skill with further training methods. With all that combined, we feel like we're ready to make some tweaks to sailing XP. As you might expect, balancing an entire skill, especially one as broad as sailing, is complex, and we were under no illusion that we'd get it absolutely perfect right out the gate. That means that while there are some buffs in today's updates, there's also a handful of nerfs. We need sailing to make sense long term. It's not an update for everybody to blitz through in a week or two and never touch again. Over the course of years, it's important that sailing remains relevant, interweaves properly with the old school's complex web of progression, and has a space for additions to the skill at all levels, at all level ranges. So we appreciate that nobody likes a nerf. We hope that you are able to meet us halfway, and appreciate that we need to fine-tune things with longevity in mind rather than a rush to the finish line. It is important to make clear that we're likely not going to get it perfect with these changes either. Sailing has a lot of room to grow and evolve, and balancing changes are something that we keep iterating on by working with the community's feedback, pairing it up with our own analytics, and trying to get things just right. We know that there's still a lot that we need to polish up with sailing, so before the end of the year, we're putting together an in-game opinion survey, that's your guys' opinion, using our fancy new polling system to gather your thoughts on a whole host of hot topics. While we're doing our best to prioritize working on what's important to ensure smooth seas for our new sailors, nice little pun there, we know that there's a lot of feedback out there from all of you and more changes you'd like to see. So we'd like to really drill down into the details and fully develop our understanding of your feedback so that we can make sure we deliver. The list isn't extensive, but you can expect some questions on things like ship combat. What are the biggest pain points? Are there quick wins and small fixes that would improve the feel alongside more long-term adjustments? How do resources availability and unique drop rates, more on those below, factor in with your overall enjoyment here, right? This has to do with like maybe cannonball drops, ruin, dragon, etc. Right now the market is volatile when it comes to that stuff, and you maybe just don't even have enough cannonballs really to get through some of this combat tasks that it almost feels draining to do ship combat at all, especially when you're trying to get stuff like the I believe it's the cannon. No, the cannon comes from salvaging. It would be like hooks and stuff, or things from like the Krakens. I think it's the bottled storms. So keep that all in mind when you go to give your opinion. Deep sea trawling. Is it appropriately rewarding for effort required? Is the fish output in a good spot? Is the XP rates output in a good spot? XP rates in general. How is the balance of the skill sitting overall? How do today's changes impact your view of the skill's balance and progression? And then drop rates. How does the time to complete or time to obtain for various resources feel? How would adjustments to the ship combat shift perspectives here? Pain point prioritization. Which are the tougher things for us to fix should we get to first? Iron and ultimate iron concerns. What unique challenges do players of these accounts type faces? What changes could we make to reduce frustration while still respecting the spirit of these game modes? And lots of more. With all that feedback to look forward to in the near future, let's bring your attention back now. Before we dive into specifics on changes we're looking to make today, we get a quick refresher on where we expect each different sailing activity to sit alongside each other with regards of XP per hour and viability as a training method. Barracuda trials are most intensive and skill-based training method and should remain at the top so long as you're appropriate level, meaning that temper tantrum shouldn't be dominating your training if you're already level 50 sailing, for example. Their downside is that XP gained in a fairly static and only really scales up with both speed and player skill, so it plateaus with player skill and incrementally with boat upgrades. This allows training methods to unlock at later levels to eventually surpass them, and you can see this effect across the entire skill, where once a new trial is reached, every other method starts gaining higher XP to try and keep up. Courier port tasks are the bread and butter baseline for all sailing XP and should be relevant for most of the sailing journey. They're not likely to be the highest XP earners for most level brackets, but may have their time to shine in level brackets between trial unlocks. Salvaging is primarily an AFK method, allowing players to earn loot while gaining XP. It seemed to be very second monitor friendly, with the option to partake in tick manipulation methods for those inclined for even greater XP returns. Tick manipulation salvaging without sorting. The salvage should be a reasonably competitive option. Below Marlin rank Barracuda trials for those who prefer this method of training, though we'll never balance this method specifically around tick manipulation since we understand it has a reasonably niche appeal. Bounty port tasks are a way to train sailing via combat, but are intentionally not trying to be a competitive XP provider, as we'd like to keep sailing focused around non-combat training instead of making it a combat skill. These provide a reasonable option for those who seek out rare sea creature drops while gaining some sailing XP on the side. Deep sea trawling is a fishing and sailing hybrid training method, primarily focused around obtaining a valuable fish, which you cannot get anywhere else in the game. This is not a significant XP driver in order to keep the prices of the fish high, and should instead be considered a reasonable way for high-level fishers and sailors to earn money as a reward for training their new skill. Finally, with the core of sailing training methods, we have a philosophy that level is king, and a rule of thumb is that higher level unlocks should always try to award more XP than lower level unlocks as a baseline before then considering the intensity of the method. Time for some specifics though. Drop an anchor, take a seat, and there's a lot to cover. The crystal extractor. If you can't see it, it's this right here. We'll start with arguably the most contentious part of sailing XP balancing, the crystal extractor. This innocuous unlock is that innocuous? I think that's innocuous. This innocuous unlock has sparked a lot of conversation and has, in a sense, warped the majority of sailing progression around it. For those not in the know, the crystal extractor is a boat facility that you can build at 73 sailing. For your troubles and roughly 2 million GP, you gain a facility which generates a windmill every 60 seconds, granting 600 sailing XP when harvested. It takes 3 ticks or 1.8 seconds to harvest, or 4 ticks if you count the time it takes to interact with the extractor, meaning that the time you're actually interacting with the extractor, your effective XP per hour is around 1.2 million. That's crazy. In effect, the single most valuable thing that you could possibly be doing if there's a moat ready to be harvested is clicking your crystal extractor, which adds up an additional about 34,000 XP per hour per player paying enough attention to click once per minute. Our initial expectations for the extractor were for it to close the gap between lower intensity activities such as port tasks or shipwreck salvaging and higher intensity activities like Barracuda trials. Earlier in development, the interaction time on the extractor was longer than it is now and had to be placed further away from the helm, so we balanced it, expecting that players would be less willing to pull away from the helm in order to harvest wind motes. As you might have guessed from the sheer volume of posts around the crystal extractor throughout the community, this isn't quite the case, so we feel changes were needed. Having said all that, we appreciate that many sailors are enjoying keeping on top of their extractor and weaving their harvest in between actions, so we're not looking to completely gut it or remove emergence from you all. We're reducing the XP per harvest from 600 to 250 XP. That means you'll be earning roughly 14,000 XP an hour from the crystal extractor rather than the about 34,000. This is a sizable nerf, but one that we think is necessary and one that we'd like to compensate with XP boost at certain points throughout progression. More on that later. We think this still makes harvesting from the extractor worthwhile, with an effective 5 million or 500,000 XP an hour while interacting with it, but means that we have more freedom to balance other activities appropriately, since we're not having to account for a flat 35 or 34,000 XP per hour on top of everything, which makes scaling things up or down a little tougher. Alongside this change, we're making improvements to the crystal extractor, will allow it to generate charges even while you're at a port until you've been disembarked, meaning running around on land for 10 seconds or so, for around 10 seconds or so. So that means that if you're quick, you can pick up or deposit cargo and make it back in time to keep the XP flowing without interruption. Before we dive into specific activities, we'll say that we're not planning on any XP changes to Barracuda trials, since they're already taking a hit as a result of the crystal extractor changes. We're happy with where the XP from trials will sit alongside other things, other options without any further adjustments, and we're constantly seeing players push the limits here, exploring options like allowing for natural trimming moments and new, more optimal routes are always being discovered to push XP even further. Port tasks. Everyone's favorite delivery driver simulator. Port tasks are supposed to be a medium intensity method that sits between shipwreck salvaging and Barracuda trials, offering a comfortable midpoint in XP per hour. While we expect there are still discoveries to be made in order to maximize the efficiency of tasks like this, particularly with so-called ABA tasks, which you can learn more about in these videos from West Ham or Cribus, we think there are some points in progression where courier tasks in particular could use a little boost to make them a little bit more appealing as an option. We'll be increasing the completion XP offered by all courier tasks from level 40 and above by 15%, just to help them shine a little bit brighter in the level ranges between Barracuda trials, where one starts to fall off and you want to progress to the next, particularly from levels 40 to 55 and 60 to 70. As well as making the more appealing laid-back option for players in the 90s and beyond 99 sporting rosewood upgrades to max out their boat speeds. At this stage, we're not planning any changes to the XP offered by bounty tasks for two reasons. One being that ship combat isn't in the best state right now, and we need to have a wider review on how best to improve combat before we push it any closer to being the meta at any stage. And the other being, these tasks are supposed to be a nice excuse for you to obtain the bounty's target unique drop while still getting a little sailing XP boost on the side. So far, they haven't talked anything about those safe spots for the Kraken, so that's pretty good so far, but I'll hold my tongue. We still have a lot to go through. Deep sea trawling. We're not getting any specific changes, or we've not got any specific changes, goodness, that we're making here this week, but felt that it is important to at least mention that we're aware of a wider discussion that you're having regarding the deep sea trawling. Our intent for this method has always been for it to be a lower XP per hour activity with a solid resource output. Fish! So that trawling serves as a solid skilling moneymaker. Though that wasn't our intent, we do understand where many of you are coming from with feelings that the XP offered isn't worth the intensity of the input, especially with the sailing XP of hour being reduced as a result of the crystal extractor changes. No changes to trawling this week, but we'll have conversations around the XP and the output and whether this is more of a sailing or fishing activity, then see what changes we might be able to make that make it more appealing of a method, but not making it so appealing that the economy absolutely floods with powerful new fish and deep sea trawling ceases to be a worthwhile moneymaker. Watch this space. Shipwreck salvaging. All right, this is where a lot of the controversy comes in. I feel like not as much as the crystal extractors. This is where, from what I saw today, people are pretty upset about. So let's get into it. Despite being the simple AFK training method, there's a lot of complexity involved in balancing shipwreck salvaging because there are so many ways that players can approach it. Here's a quick rundown of all the ways that you've been salvaging so far. Self-salvage, self-sort with no crewmates. Self-salvage, salvage, drop, no crewmates. Self-salvage, self-sort, assign crewmates to salvage while sorting. One crewmate salvage, self-salvage, self-sort, assign a crewmate to salvage while sorting. Two crewmates salvaging and self-sort, I think that's the one everyone usually has been doing. One crewmate salvage, two self-tick salvage, self-sort, assign second crewmate to salvage while sorting. 1 crewmate salvage, self 2 tick salvage, drop, self 1.5 tick self sort, self 1.5 tick salvage drop, and there's a lot more. All of these for every single type of shipwreck too. Many of these are enabled by the salvaging station, which was an addition made late into sailing development, which has made 2 crewmate salvage, self sort, and particularly a very strong AFK method that allows almost 30 minutes of downtime with solid XP rates, making it arguably the best AFK method in the game, especially when coupled with an additional XP hour from the crystal extractor. This is so compounded by a bug where crewmates are actually salvaging every 3 ticks, making them faster than players who salvage every 4 ticks. While we love AFK methods just as much as you, we're no stranger to some second screen salvaging while at work. Caught. We think that XP... Where did we lose it? There we go. Goodness. We think that XP per hour... we think that the XP per hour on offer from... Wait, what? I clicked the page up accidentally on my keyboard and shit went south. While we love AFK methods just as much as you, and we're no strangers to some second screen salvaging while at work, we think that the XP per hour on offer from some of these... I think I understand it now. Well, we think the XP per hour on offers from some of these... Nope, no, it's just screwed up. It's not me. I think it's a sentence, unless I'm stupid. Totally possible, guys. I majored in science, not like the English or shit like that. So, ooh. Some of these is a little too good for the effort required, which weakens the appeal of port task and barracuda trials and makes it possible to reach 99 sailing without moving your boat much at all. We're looking to make some changes here that might not be easy to understand from the numbers, so we'll state the goal clearly. Nerf AFK salvaging across the board, so its top end is slightly above similar AFK methods like redwood woodcutting. Our rough estimate here is that the AFK salvage methods could top out in the 80 to 90k XP per hour range. Ensure that moderately AFK methods where crewmates salvage and the players sort will result in more XP than dropping salvage, but tone down the sorting XP so that it isn't significantly better than dropping. And reduce some common frustrations and pain points with salvaging to improve quality of life. And we're also going to improve the output of high intensity salvaging so that players looking for high intensity training methods have a viable alternative that competes with barracuda trials. Now let's dive in on how we're looking to realize these goals. Starting with all of the ways we'd like to improve our quality of life when salvaging shipwrecks. Player salvaging now runs on a slower 5-tick cycle, down from 4-tick, but with increased success rate across all shipwreck tiers to keep XP roughly the same while boosting AFK time. Crewmates will remember their assigned task over logout, meaning that they'll get right back to salvaging even if you hop worlds. Crewmates' salvage range will be calculated from the hook's position rather than the boat's position. This would reduce scenarios where crewmates could salvage wrecks that you could not, and vice versa. Crewmates will now salvage at the same rate as players rather than outperforming their captain. We'll be adding more double salvage spots to every shipwreck hotspot, while also making these double spots easier to access and orient yourself so that you're not getting stuck repeatedly. In Jolly Dim's deck handiness has been increased to 4, meaning you can have 2 crewmates able to use the dragon salvaging hooks. These tweaks should help improve the social aspect of salvaging, cutting down on annoyance when getting into the right spot or hopping at the same location, and improve the consistency which crewmates do what you'd expect them to. You might have noticed that the list above also states that players will salvage at a 5-tick cycle rather than the current 4-tick cycle. This is slower than before, but we're buffing success rates at all tiers of shipwreck to compensate. This aims to keep the XP per hour of actually salvaging at a similar or slightly lower level than before, but will increase your AFK time when actively salvaging. Your success rates are changing to compensate for this adjusted speed. So small shipwrecks now have a 11% increase. Fishermen have a 14%, Barracuda with a 15%, Large with a 16% increase, Pirate with a 21% increase, Mercenary with an 18%, Firminix from a 16 to 21% increase, and Merchant from a 16 to 22. On top of this, we're buffing XP that you get from actually pulling up the salvage from some of the higher tier shipwrecks as follow. Pirates will now give 76 instead of 63. Mercenary now gives 138 instead of 127. Freminic will give 162 instead of 150, and Merchants will now give 200 instead of 190. However, we're reducing the XP that you get from sorting salvage to try to better emphasize getting involved on the hooks yourself and reducing some of the strength with the 2 crewmate salvage self-sort method. We love an AFK method, but when sorting XP is as good as it is, we're thinking relying solely on sorting and letting your crewmates do all the salvaging is a little too AFK to be healthy long term. I think this is where most people are really upset, because this is how most people were AFKing, especially when you get yourself set up in those areas where you could salvage 2 spots at the same time and your crewmates could just pretty much sit there 24/7 filling up your cargo. So Barracuda salvage, when you clean it, gives 13 instead of 15.5. Large now gives 20 instead of 24. Pirate gives 26 instead of 31.5. Mercenary gives 30 instead of 63.5. That is a crazy jump. Fremnik gives 32 instead of 75, and Merchant gives 34 instead of 95. That is some massive jumps right here. Like, we're talking, these ones were 2, 4, 5 differences. Now we're talking 33. We're talking 43. We're talking almost 61 XP per salvage differences. That is crazy. It's hard to put all this together and understand exactly how each of the approaches to shipwreck salvaging might be impacted. The oversimplified version is that we estimate these numbers to be around 20 to 30% nerf for AFK salvaging from levels 35 and beyond, and 20% buff to no more high intensity approaches to salvaging. Buff to more high intensity approaches. I think that's how he said it. It's worth noting that the majority of these 20 to 30% nerfs here assume that you're maintaining good uptime on your crystal extractor as well. So if you've been taking it easy and missing out on harvesting every minute, then you'll likely see a smaller reduction in XP. Additionally, shifting more XP onto salvaging rather than these sorting means you'll notice more of the benefits from upgrading your hook. The current paradigm with sorting doing so much lifting, coupled with the sheer volume of XP added by the crystal extractor, means upgrading your salvage hook multiple tiers doesn't result in noticeable increases in XP hour, but these increases should be more noticeable with today's update. We believe these numbers help bring them into a healthier spot, so that they'll still hold a solid social AFK offering, but not so solid that they lead many players to not engaging with other training methods whatsoever. Coupled with a bunch of quality of life improvements that should improve consistency, which will boost XP hour slightly in a way that's tougher to model, and position high intensity salvage methods as something that might be a competitive alternative to Barracuda trials for endgame sailors looking for a change of pace. Key part: nobody likes a nerf, and boy did the community make that known today, or feel like they're missing out on a strongly early XP rates because of real life commitments. That's that abuse early, abuse often concept that a lot of people were talking about, where people who, let's be real, who don't have a job, who don't have to work 9 to 5, were able to take advantage of these high rates, and people who just couldn't take time off, or who could just, devote an entire week to just playing this game 24/7, really didn't get to take advantage of these XP rates. And it's good to see they at least acknowledge and know that. But we hope that you can appreciate our desire to better position sailing's core training methods relative to each other now that we're equipped with more data and feedback than we could ever have been gathered by ourselves. These changes also create more space for us to add new methods or activities in to fill the gaps, to flesh out a varied progressing curve with a larger breadth of gameplay for players who enjoy for years to come. So we can't wait to see what we come up with together as more and more suggests for new activities floods in. And remember, we're going to talk more about this all tomorrow, and we're going to cover it all tomorrow. Oh, and one last thing before we move on. We're fixing the Horizon Lures so that it correctly applies its plus 2.5% XP boost to all activities in sailing, meaning harvesting from a crystal extractor, sorting and salvaging on a boat, or sorting at a dock, right? Handling and port tasks if a boat is spawned with a keg on it, trimming the sails, collecting crates as a Barracuda trial, and completing a Barracuda trial. Remember what we said before. These changes are set in stone and unchanging forever. This balancing progress, and really guys, look, remember what we said before. These changes aren't set in stone and unchanging forever. So tomorrow they could completely go back on a lot of this stuff. They could make changes. They could make some of these jumps up here not 30 to 40 XP changes. It could cut this in half and actually make these better. We'll see. I can't give my honest opinion. I don't know what they're gonna do, but they're at least aware of it, right? How do we know they're aware of it? They're aware of it all the way up here because they got right back with you before the day ended, right? So we're gonna see tomorrow. Hopefully we see some healthy changes. and not such a intense nerf. All right, let's talk about drop rates and mechanics. As always, the combined forces of the OSRS wiki and RuneLite mean you already have a rough idea of what the rates are for many items that you're chasing, but we commit to releasing drop rates within a full 2 weeks of an update, so that you can know for sure and perhaps spot if anything seems awry. Awry? That's a crazy word. There are a lot of items added in sailing, so we're putting them into an expand section to avoid cluttering the blog if you're not interested. So, real quick, Bell's Folly is a 1 in 400, Gold Pet's a 1 in 3000, Jar of Feathers 1 in 2000, Elite Clues 1 in 200 from the Shellbacon Griffin. Griffin's The Horn of Plenty is a 1 in 2500 if you're on task, 1 in 1000, or I'm sorry, 1 in 2500 off task, 1 in 1000 on task. Jesus, that is just like the, what is it called? The Basilisk Jaw. Getting PTSD here. For context, I've killed like 2,500 basilisks on task, still haven't seen a draw. Boat paints for the Barracuda, only when rolling when achieving a Marlin time for a trial. It's 1 in 240 at Temper Tantrum. It's 1 in 2200 at Jubbly Jive, 1 in 400 at Gwyneth Glide. Context, I hate Jubbly Jive with a passion. That was the worst one I've ever had to do. Shark Paint, it's 1 in 36 from completing any port tasks. Inky, it is 1 in 3000 from Pygmy Krakens, 1 in 2500 from Spined, 1 in 2000 in Armored from Armored, and 1 in 1500 from a Vampire Kraken. The English Paint, the base rate is 1 in 18,000. Shimmering Shoal rate is 1 in 16,200. Salvers only obtained from the Marital Salvage. Marshall? I think I meant to say Marshall, not Marital. Is 1 in 24,000. Dragon Sheets from the Striker Worm. Off task, it's 1 in 400, but on task, it's 1 in 100. From Frost Dragons off task, it's 1 in 200, but on task, it's 1 in 55. And the Great White Shark and Armored Kraken, we'll see, I guess, below. Okay, I see it. Merchant Shipwrecks for Dragonales is 1 in 2000, where the Frost Dragon is 1 in 65, and the Narwhal's 1 in 1024. Dragon Cannonballs, the Pirate Shipwreck is a 1 in 3000. The Mercenary Shipwreck is 1 in 3000. The Merchant Shipwreck is 10 in 4240. The Frost Dragon is 2 in 130. The Great White Shark is 2 in 100. The Vampire Kraken 2 in 120. The Orca is 2 in 92, and the Aquanite is 1 in 128. The Broken Dragon Hook is from the Great White Shark, a 1 in 1023. The Great White Shark drop mechanics have a 1 in 1023 chance to roll on their dragon table. Due to a nasty bug, these haven't been rolling as intended, but we're fixing that as a part of today's update. Once rolled, dragon items have the following weightings. The large dragon keel part is 1 in 6. The dragon keel part is a 1 in 6. Okay, I made sure I read that right. The dragon sheet is a 4 in 6, and it drops between 1 to 2 sheets once rolled. The Armored Kraken drop mechanics. Armored Krakens have a 1 in 256 chance to roll on the dragon table. Once rolled, dragon items have the following weightings. The large dragon keel part is a 1 in 5. The dragon keel part is a 1 in 5. And the dragon sheet is 3 in 5, which drops between 1 to 2 sheets once rolled. The Echo Pearl. Orcas have a 1 in 512, while dolphins have a 1 in 10k. The Swift Albatross Feather, is a 1 in 200 from albatrosses. The Horn from the Narwhals is 1 in 100. The Jumbo Squids drop a squid beak in 1 in 512, while the Sword Tip will drop them in 1 in 1024. Ray Barbs. The Eagle Ray has a 1 in 300. The Butterfly Ray a 1 in 300. The Sting Ray a 1 in 150, and the Manta 1 in 100. The Bottled Storm. The Armored Kraken has a 1 in 1024, while the Vampire Kraken has a 1 in 512. Shipwreck Salvaging. The Dragon Cannon Barrel is a 1 in 20k from an opulent salvage. The Boat Bottle Small Salvage will give a 1 in 750. Fisherman a 1 in 750, and the Barracuda a 1 in 500. The Sailor's Amulet, the Inert. Small Shipwreck is a 1 in 2k. The Fisherman is a 1 in 1500. The Barracuda is a 1 in 1k. The Large is 1 in 500, while the Pirate is 1 in 450. The Mercenary is 1 in 400. The Fremenic is 1 in 350, and the Merchant is 1 in 300. Salvaging Uniques, the Rusty Locket, etc., all are 1 in 3000. Clue scrolls. Shipwrecks, it's a 1 in 300 for a beginner clue scroll. Fisherman, it's a 1 in 300 for an easy. Barracuda, it's a 1 in 300 for a medium. And Mercenary, it's a 1 in 500 for the hard clue. Soup. This is going to be a long one. The soup is only obtainable on player rolls, meaning your crew do not roll pet chances for you. I was going to say, there'd be so many of them. How much people are AFK salvaging? Barracuda Trials. It's a 1 in 16,000, completing a temper tantrum. The Jubbly is a 1 in 1150. Or my goodness, 11,500, and Gwyneth is 1 in 9,000. To note, rolls only happen on achieving time. The rates listed above are correct, but this will increase with your rank. If you do it in the Marlin time, you'll get 3 rolls, the Shark 2, and the Swordfish 1. Unranked, no rolls at all. Port Task. Scales on level required for the task, but they range from 1 in 6,000 at level 1 to 1 in 3150 at 99. Not bad. Trimming the sails, 1 in 120,000. Charting, 1 in 30,000 per chart. Trawling, 1 in 360,000 per fishing attempt, example per sailing XP drop. Salvaging, from the small, it's 1 in 800,000. Fisherman, it's 1 in 500. Barracuda, 1 in 300,000. I should say 1,000 for the fisherman as well. 1 in 280,000 for the large. 1 in 275,000 for the pirate. 1 in 260,000 for the mercenary. 1 in 230,000 for the Fremenic. 1 in 160,000 for the merchant. The giant fish base rates from a respective shoals. So it's 1 in 2,000 to get the giant blue krill. It's 1 in 2,000 to get the giant or the golden haddock. 1 in 4,000 for the orange fin. 1 in 4,000 for the huge halibut. 1 in 6,000 for the purple fin, and 1 in 6,000 for the swift marlin. For the shimmering shoals, it's a 1 in 1,000 chance to roll a rare fish, and the distribution chance is for the krill, it's 45 in 100. Haddock 42. Oh my goodness. Haddock is 40 in 100. Yellowfin is 10 in 100, and halibut is 5 in 100. For glistening shoals, it's a 1 in 2,000 chance to roll the rare fish. Distribution chance for the yellowfin is 45 in 100. Halibut is 40 in 100. Bluefin is 10 in 100, and marlin is 5 in 100. And for vibrant shoals, it's 1 in 3,000 chance to roll a rare fish, and the distribution for the bluefin is 50 in 100, and marlin is 50 in 100. We think we caught up everything here, but let us know if we missed any or there are other items that you're curious about. Good luck on those grinds. Other sailing changes. Wow, we are almost to the end, guys. Hang in there. All right. So far, it's been a pretty information-dense post. No kidding. Full of numbers and balancing changes. But it's time to ease up a little and talk about all of our simple fixes and straightforward improvements this week. There are bound to be something in here that might win a nod of approval from you. So let's dive in. XP rewards for XP lamps or the Tears of Gothics are now available to be used on sailing. As a reminder, you need to complete Pandemonium quest before you will gain XP for these methods. Here we go. We've improved the hitbox of lost supplies to better match their model and makes them more intuitive to collect. We're almost certain we've got it right this time. The size of the cargo holds model and click box have been slightly increased to make it easier to click on. Players should no longer find themselves logging in at the last port that they visited if they logged out with their boat docked at an island's mooring point. Shipwrights can now repair your boat for 50 GP per hit point restored. Boats will now heal to full whenever their keel or hull is upgraded. Cargo crates from courier tasks no longer count towards the cargo hold storage cap for UIM players. Note that this is a temporary fix while we work with UIM players to settle on a better long-term solution for UIM gripes with port task. Hey, that's good to know for you guys. To my UIMs out there in my chat. Remove some invisible walls in the Fremsund near Meteorologist. Chum Station now all have their sailing requirements for use matching their sailing requirement for building, meaning if you can build one, you can use one. Default settings have been adjusted so that the check materials button on boats upgrades will display a message in chat by default. Diving gear is no longer deleted when deposited into a cargo hold. A helmet related mermaid riddle solution has been updated to incorporate another correct solution. We fixed a bug where players sorting merchant salvage were being told that they did not have the sailing level requirement to sort it in some scenarios. Players can no longer lock into saleable tiles in Varlamore and Laguna Aurora and teleport themselves to Port Sarum. Planks from the plank sack are now usable when building facilities on a boat. Yay. The captain's log no longer suggests that there is any evidence of the Sharhai to the west of the Vatrios Island, because the evidence is actually to the east. Our bad on this one, but well done to any explorer spirits who went out of their way to find this evidence regardless. Frost dragons now have the respawn timer made faster. They will now respawn every 4.5 seconds, down from 18 seconds. Goodness. Frost dragons can now be fought in a cavern on Grimstone that's only accessible while on a Slayer task. See, they did give more frost dragons today. Good to know. Just in case you missed it, we have a handful of hotfixes after last week's game update to fix some issues you might have countered. The crystal extractor now resets its progress properly when a new Barracuda trial is started, and fixed a bug where players were able to board other players' boats during the Gwyneth Glide, which some players abused to get set unbeatable world record times. We also reset world record times alongside any illegitimate obtained personal best as a result. Oh, here we go. The Z buffer graphical fixes. Following our big leap into true 3D depth with our new Z buffer system, we've been working hard and at work to smooth out some of the quirks you've spotted. Thanks to your report, a batch of visual issues have been addressed. Please tell me one of them is in... Yeah, no, I don't see it. All right. The place where the demonic rills are, there's an issue there. Player-owned house construction and decorations now display correctly, with all textures and details appearing as intended. Oh, that's nice. Updated the Shiloh Village gem mine entrance so it displays as open rather than blocked when viewed. The fireplace on a wall near Orthus Farm no longer clips with the building. Fixed an ancient mushroom reflection at Fossil Island and wall near the Fortis Coliseum so they can now display correctly without flickering or visual glitches. Quetzal tails no longer clip through hay piles. The seed vault shadows now display correctly without flickering or overflapping on the floor. Ritual circles from the enchantment of forestry event now sit correctly on the ground, preventing them from clipping on uneven terrain. As always, these fixes are part of our ongoing effort to polish a new depth system, so you may notice subtle improvements rolling out between the week updates. Keep an eye out on the world and keep sending us your feedback. You can keep track of known issues and updates in the official Discord. I probably should put one in for the area. Merch update. The Xmas lines are here and Angelscape is killing it like always. Looking for something festive to collect? Check out the Xmas pudding capybara and baby mole with a Santa hat from Angelscapes. They actually are absolutely adorable. A full range of Angelscape pins and key rings are great gifts for any scapers. Tell your loved ones out there that you want to ensure you can find them in your stockings this year. I would love to have these in my stockings, but unfortunately shipping to the US is horrendous right now, so it just is what it is. Holiday offers though, hey, if you're in the UK, spend a minimum of £50, $55 or 60 euros. Is that euros? I don't know. What's the E? I don't know. I don't know money. I only know the American stuff, the cheeseburgers, hamburgers, football fields, etc. on the official merch store and receive 50% off your order. That is awesome. Select lines are also discounted while stocks last. And we have right here the latest comic release this week. So Runescape Untold Tales of the God Wars. Issue number 4 of Runescape The Untold Tales of God Wars comic series releases the 3rd of December globally. Get it from the official merch store, other online retailers, or from your local comic store. That's pretty cool. There are also 3 different cover variants for able to collect. Nice. Very cool. It looks like... Oh, and there's a graphic novel coming. Runescape Untold Tales of the God Wars as well. On sale March 2026 and you can pre-order online. If you missed the earlier comic issues, fret not. A graphic novel collecting together's issues of 1 through 4 of the comic series, plus the free comic book daily. Free comic book day 2023 special releases end of March next year, and it's already on pre-order. It explores the lore behind the Temple of the Lost Ancients and the 4 Generals and the Godsword. Delve into the Temple of the Lost Ancients during the catastrophic and iconic God Wars as 4 warring armies fight over the control of the Godsword, the only weapon capable of killing a deity. Trapped in the center of conflict is the undead Morrow, who dreams of breaking free of his master's clutches. But escaping from a necromancer's lead to a twisting, thrilling journey for Morrow when he finds allies and enemies across the front lines. What was once a myth becomes legend in a gripping series about gods and mortals. Don't forget, the novel also available. The novels also available on now for online and local bookstores include the latest release, The Shadows of Mamasket, available on digital books for your Kindle, physical books, and also now coming as soon as audio. Let me see here. Other changes: fixed a bug where players receive the guaranteed mimic on the 26th casket or 11th master instead of the intended 25th elite or 10th master. The Blue Moon special attack, how only wait, what? The Blue Moon special attack, how only unfreezes NPCs that are legitimately frozen or bound, working correctly on Yama while preventing unintended unfreezing of other bosses. That's one hell of a sentence. With the exception of PvP and Deadman Worlds, players who start to harvest an allotment and in the same tick use the same produce as a compost bin will once again continue harvesting and composting automatically until the patches empties or in the compost bin fills. This had stopped working because the code for the item for using items on scenery was breaking. Binding effects such as icy spells, and those effects tend to matter most in PvP, restored the ability to use compost bins in that way, but only on non-PvP worlds, also excluding Deadman. Corrected interface positioning to remove the gap at the top of the screen while moving the map on the desktop, and the water pump site on Vatrocos Island now updated its appearance correctly when you build the pump. A troll face has been removed from the thieving skill guide. Okay. No clue what that's about. PvP World Rota. The PvP Rota has been moved to period B. So 560, or the UK, is the PvP world. 319, the US, the Bounty Hunter world. 579, the US, the high risk PvP world. 561, the UK, free to play PvP world. And 580 is the US LMS competitive. World 390 for the Australian for LMS competitive have been deactivated this rota. And World 569 for Australian worlds, the Bounty Hunter has been deactivated with this rota. And the PvP arena is using the max med loadouts in the ranked duels and tournaments this week. And that's everything. All right. So like I said, I kind of would mention my opinion. Look, they're doing changes and they're trying to find balances. I never got to abuse or utilize the sort of salvaging. I actually had just finally gotten to the capabilities to have two crewmates working on the salvage while I would reap the benefits and sort. But I never got to abuse to it. I wasn't there. I wasn't there often enough, right? I wasn't early enough. And you know, that's okay. Does it suck? Yeah, I know a lot of people are really upset, and those nerf numbers that I mentioned above in this week's blog post, like those are some like substantial nerfs. And it's kind of crazy that they went through with it. I expected the crystal the crystal extractor to get a nerf, but the salvaging to get hit so hard, it kind of does suck. I know that AFK is really nice in the game. I know people really do enjoy it, but I do wholeheartedly believe there needs to be a fine line with AFK. It can't be super busted, but at the same time, it can't be bullshit where you don't get enough XP at all. At the moment, it seemed like it truly was a little busted. The AFK hours or not hours, but the XP per hour was really high. And I know that made a lot of people happy, and I know not everyone has the time to play this game all the time. Maybe you have family, loved ones who could be sick, you have kids, and etc. So I get that you want to still max, or you still want to get have a good AFK method to gain XP, and you just don't have as much time. But at the same time, I don't think it should be so busted that it should be a handout. But let's look at the other side. You know, it's a little unfair. Those people who didn't have a life, people who I say don't have a life, maybe Runescape or streaming is their job, right? Maybe they're able to stream every day, maybe they'll play all the time. It sucks because they got to take advantage of this. They got the, you know, skyrocket to 99, get it done quick, and just don't even have to worry about sailing it unless they want to max their ship out or get soup, right? So there's not a lot of fairness in that as well. So it really is unfortunate to see him nerf it as much. And some people really got to take advantage of it. It really is the case. Unfortunately, since I didn't get to take advantage of it, I really don't have much of an opinion. I can just say it sucks because those numbers are big jumps, right? We're talking high numbers, and they really killed a good chunk of it. And at the same time, though, like I said, I don't think numbers of XP per hour should be crazy high, right? I think it's fair in line if it's like 30,000 an hour maybe on AFK, but you know, that's pushing it, because it's supposed to be AFK for a reason. It shouldn't be something where you can get 99 in a snap of a finger. It should be more intense if you want to get 99 that fast, like the Barracuda trials. But look, that's just my opinion. But then again, I'm also a stinky iron, so I have no room to talk, right? I'm not a UIM though. I'm just kidding. I love my UIM friends and stuff. But look, we're gonna see what they're gonna do about it tomorrow. hopefully they do some good changes, and there'll be another video up tomorrow. I'm going to get this out here in the next few minutes, hopefully. But that's really it for this week in RuneScape. So a lot of changes were made, and it was met with a lot of backlash, but that's what's gonna happen, right? It's gonna be expected. So yeah, that's it.